Hello and welcome everyone to today's Fairy God Boss Live webinar. We are so excited to have you all join us. We're going to give folks a few seconds to connect. And while we're waiting, we would love to know where everyone is tuning in from today. You'll see on the right side of your screen, there's a chat box. So if you feel comfortable doing so, please send a message in the chat just saying, hey, and letting us know where you're joining from. Okay, wow. So we have folks from quite all over. It looks like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida, Indiana, Massachusetts, South Africa, Southern California, Buffalo, North Carolina. Love to see it. All right, we will go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Valentina Lanisi. I am a senior account manager at the Muse and Prairie God Boss. Before we get started, I do have a few quick housekeeping announcements. The session will be recorded and shared via email with all registrants. So if you have to hop off for whatever reason, or you'd like to share this event with folks in your network, please feel free to do so. During the discussion, we would love to hear from you. These sessions are always so great when we have interaction from participants, so we welcome it. We hope you use the stage chat on the right side of your screen to send messages, comments, reflections, and the Q&A tab to send questions to the panelists. I'm now so excited to kick off today's event, Purpose, Passion, and Leadership, a Day in the Life, sponsored by TruGreen. For those who don't know, Fairy God Boss is the largest online career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairy God Boss for career connections, jobs, community, advice. Hard to find intel about how companies treat women in virtual events like this. And so we are thrilled to be partnering and joined today by three leaders at TruGreen. We have Katie Oliver, Amy Phelps, and Julie Burt-Dixon. Would you each take a minute to introduce yourselves? We'd love to hear what's going on in your life, both personally and professionally, and what you do in your role today at TruGreen. Kate, we'll start with you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I have been with TruGreen for over 30 years in lots of different roles, from driving customer experience and retention, customer care, and also sales throughout the organization. And have had the distinct pleasure of working alongside a lot of great men and women over the years to grow our business. I'm also a wife, a mom, and I'm about to add another title to my name later this year, and that is grandmother, or probably KK, as I will be called, as my son and his wife are having a little girl in late December. So, again, thrilled to be here to talk with you all today.
Wonderful. Amy?
I'm going to call you KK from now on. Kate. Hi, I'm Amy Phelps. I'm the Senior Director of Revenue Finance and Workforce Management. I've been with TruGreen for a little over 4 years now, and I lead our finance teams that are over our sales, care, and commercial organizations. And I also lead our workforce team that staffs our call centers. I've had a really busy summer. Personally, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, we have 4 kids, and I can't forget our pup, Oscar. But professionally, I've recently taken over the finance team. So I've been really heads down trying to learn and get up to speed as fast as I can. Kind of feel like I'm starting over a little bit here at TruGreen.
That's awesome. And Julie?
Well, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Julie Burke Dixon. I am the Director of Contact Center Operations for TruGreen. I have had the pleasure of being with TruGreen for almost 5 years. I have been in sales for 22 years, leadership for 21. I am married. I have been with my husband for 14 years, married for 6. We have 2 beautiful fur babies. I'm a cat mom, so all of you animal lovers out there, definitely kindred spirits. I would say that my favorite thing about working with the organization so far is what Kate mentioned, that we have the opportunity to work with so many wonderful men and women who they themselves have spent a long time developing their craft and contribute to our organization at a high level. So it's really a privilege to be with all of you guys today. And I look forward to today's session. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing a bit about your day-to-day and also your personal lives. It's great to hear that you have both, I would say, fulfilling professional lives and also personal lives, which is wonderful. That kind of in mind, sort of piggybacking off of day-to-day responsibilities, what does a typical day at TruGreen look like for you, and how has that evolved over time? Amy, maybe you had mentioned recently taking over the finance team. Would love to hear your reflections.
Yeah, well, of course, no day is the same, but the one thing that is in common is my days revolve around people. So whether it's one-on-ones, team meetings, skip levels, project-based meetings, strategy sessions, or info sharing with our partners, people and that collaboration are at the heart of everything I do. But my typical day has evolved since I joined the company. For me to learn best, I need to do and actually get into the meat of things. So in my early days here, I spent a lot of my time as an individual contributor, learning the data sources and building the models so I could form my own gut opinions. And with that foundation, now I'm able to spend more time at a higher level, providing more strategic direction and doing it very quickly, which allows me to handle so many more different projects at once. And then all of that means I'm continuing to learn and evolve.
Love that. And Julie, you had mentioned being in leadership for quite some time now too. So maybe you can opine on your experience.
Absolutely. So I support the inside sales team directly. I do have the privilege of working with Kate and Amy on a daily basis. We're a very collaborative group, but most of my day is just like Amy, spent with people. I love people, and we are in the people business. So if you are a leader on this line, if you support an internal or an external customer, thank you for all that you do. Me personally, it's leading, managing, strategizing to drive sales performance. That includes coaching our sales team, analyzing sales data, and most importantly, ensuring that our team is hitting our targets in the right way. Over time, that has evolved a little bit more into data analysis as I've moved up within the organization and taken on more responsibility at TruGreen. We spend a lot of time looking at our technology, the right platforms and processes to ensure that we are efficient and effective with what we do. But I would say the biggest thing is the focus on internal customer experience. Again, I support salespeople directly. Their job is to focus on the customer. They keep the customer at the heart of their business, and we keep our internal customer at the heart of ours.
Yeah, that's so interesting, right? Is like this duality of really being a people business, both internally and externally. That's great to hear. And Kate, tell us a little bit about your day to day.
Sure. As Amy and Julie have both said, my days evolve around working with people. And, one of the things that, any organization is challenged with is, how are the things that we're doing working to drive the business? Every week is sort of a new week in our performance, if you will, when it comes to growing customers. And so it's really all about continuously identifying what's going right in our business, what are the challenges in our business, and how can we work together with our field-based teams to continuously improve. So really spend a lot of time around that continuous improvement process over the course of every week.
Yeah, that's such an interesting element too. I think like the culture, and I think something that tethers all of your experience, irrespective of where you sit in the organization, is really trying to be sort of customer people centric and using that kind of feedback loop from the folks who are on the field into corporate. That's awesome to hear. It's probably not a shocker, but TruGreen operates in a space that is traditionally a male-dominated space, and so it's really refreshing to see you all having been with the organization and grown in a very meaningful and intentional way. Could you talk a little bit about the skills and experiences that helped you grow into these leadership roles? Maybe Amy, you can touch upon your experience.
Yeah, I was lucky enough right from the jump. My very first boss was a female rock star, and she has become my lifelong mentor and advocate. And that's just to say that relationships are extremely important. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be your own advocate. So I've really embraced these past couple of years at TruGreen. I took it on myself. I took ad hoc analyses that I was doing on the side. I packaged them up. I presented them to my boss. Here's what I found. Here's what I did about it. Here's the impact to the business. Sometimes you have to brag, and it's really hard to do so. Another little tip that I started pretty early on was making sure that I learned the ability to speak up and to do so with confidence. We all have great ideas and we all know our business, but sometimes we wait to be called on. And so we sit back in the shadows a little bit. So early on in my career, I made it a point in every meeting to find something valuable to add to the conversation just so that I could make my presence known. I was very strategic in making sure that it was something intelligent coming out of my mouth. But I really spent those times just trying to show up and make sure that my voice was heard.
Yeah, you touched upon three things that I think are really important and often understated, right? Is like having an advocate in leadership and, bragging, but backing it up, right? Being able to keep a record of the, achievements that you've had an impact on the business and, having that confidence to take up space, I think is something often that women, you know, have to navigate in the corporate space. So it's great to hear that you were very intentional in your experience. And Kate, maybe you can tell us a little bit.
Sure. So, it's very interesting over my time. Working mostly with males, sitting around the table, really very often being the only female in the room. And what I have tried to do over the years in the work that I do is one, to build relationships with people, because that is so important, and to listen and learn, mainly from our operators who are running the business, because I always try to present myself in a fact based way as opposed to in an emotional way. While I might be passionate about something, knowing the facts, understanding the business very, very well, has always served me well in my role and enabled me to really bring forward initiatives in the business that will help us move forward. And so, again, building those relationships is really key to breaking down those barriers that you might think exist, in those scenarios.
Yeah, and I think your point about listening and understanding acutely a
Mhm.
business to be able to provide value with like a fact-based approach, I think is really interesting too, right? Because how you communicate and how you know, build those relationships might differ also, right? Being in
Mhm.
different rooms with different people. Julie.
Well, for me personally, it's about mentorship, seeking out mentors and sponsors who you can connect with, both male and female leaders. They can provide guidance for you, advice, and as Amy mentioned before, advocate for you. I think it's really important that you are authentic. I will say that Kate, as she mentioned, has presented herself that way the entire time that I have worked with her and is such a splendid mentor for Amy and myself and for other women in the company. And we're very proud of her. With that being said, team, it is really important that you lift other people up. You never know if you're the only person who's going to say something positive and meaningful in someone's day that can really build their spirit and really their confidence. And I think that's so important. And one of the ways that you shine is by mastering your craft. I always tell that to people. Being exceptional at what you do builds credibility and minimizes doubt and about your capability, right? Because especially if you're getting to know someone, you've joined a new organization, that's really important. With that being said, though, don't be afraid to fail. Part of being a strong leader is making mistakes, learning from your mistakes, and moving forward to help other people benefit from them. I highly encourage everyone to do so.
Yeah, Julie, those are really interesting thoughts, right? Particularly as we think also about women who we know research indicates that, are less likely to put themselves forward if they feel like they don't fit all of the criteria and are, have this fear of kind of failing forward, right? So it's great to hear from you that TruGreen really has this culture that kind of embodies, lifting everybody up and helping that opinions matter, right? I think that that's so important. You all have kind of talked with such conviction, right? And to me, that is so inspiring. Would love to know a little bit more if you could talk about your own passion and purpose and voice at work. Kate, maybe you can shine a light on this first.
Sure. Really, what my passion centers around, first and foremost, is our customer and our external customer, but then also our internal customer, and that is our associates who are out serving our external customers every day. And so I've done a vast amount of research over the years, listening to our customers, what they want, what makes them happy, what makes them leave the business. And so I have found that understanding our customer and always putting our customer at the center of our conversations around the table of the team, whether it's an executive team or the team that we're working on to drive initiatives. If we think first about what our customers want, then from there, our solutions seem simpler and easier to understand. And then as it relates to our associates, it's really all about their relationships with our customers. And so understanding that their jobs are difficult and, how they spend their days, and honestly, seconds matter. And so the more we understand what they're going through and whatever it is we're building for them, whether it's training, engagement type opportunities, the more we focus on those external and internal customers, that is really what, brings the passion and purpose to the work that I do and what I try to instill in the teams that I work alongside to grow the business.
Love that. Yeah, that customer centricity really being at its core, how you find your passion at TruGreen. Julie, what are your reflections on this?
So many. I would say it's really important that you understand yourself. What is your genuine motivation? What is your personal career goal? What excites you or excites me can be completely different, and one is not more important than the other. And that's why it's so important that everyone learns to cultivate their own voice. That was really hard for me early in my career, y'all. If I'm being honest, I tried to be a version of what I perceived other leaders to be, or to adapt some of the skills that I saw other leaders that I really respected demonstrate on a daily basis that may not have been as natural for me. And if I'm being honest, that's not sustainable. Your own unique perspective is what makes you you, right? So you're valuable. Your perspective is valuable, and you need to embrace your natural leadership style. On top of that, I think being authentic, you have to be honest with yourself on who you are, continuously self reflect. That's so big. Work on any areas of opportunity that you may have, because that shows that you are willing to learn. We are human. We are in the human business. And as humans, we make mistakes, right? So I always say that to individuals. If you're showing that growth, right, then that means that you are moving forward. If you are not growing, you're standing still. And if you're standing still, you're falling behind. And that in itself, to figure out that for myself and to help other people learn how to do that for themselves, is what makes me passionate about my role.
Yeah, that's so profound, right? Is like standing still is like still being moving backwards in a sense, right? That's such a good point. And I also loved the call out that truly what everybody, what excites and creates passion in somebody looks different, right? That collectively you can work for the greater good of the organization, but that really trying to understand and doing that personal discovery to figure out what it is that drives you is so incredibly important to success at any organization and at any level. With that in mind, kind of piggybacking off of this, what are some of the things that you find the most rewarding and challenging about the work that you do? Kate, you spoke about, kind of always keeping the customer in mind, but this balancing act between the associates who are working with the customers, but also understanding the customer's needs. So would love to hear what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, sure. So, the most rewarding thing that to me over the years is, even though TruGreen is a large national company, we're a small team, and so what has been most rewarding for me is being able to create initiatives and roll those initiatives out into the organization and see the impact that it has on our associates very directly and on our customers has been one of the most fulfilling things. We've been on a journey to improve customer satisfaction, improve customer retention. It's such a huge driver of growth for us. And I had the opportunity to work on what we called a branch transformation team, and take a few of our markets and try new things and see how it impacted both our associates and our customers. And we did this over a course of 24 months, and just set aside these locations to be able to learn and try new things, with the sort of freedom around seeing how it worked. And as a result of that, we put together at least 5 to 6 initiatives for our associates, and the same with our customers, that grew retention. And so we've been able to see, a pretty significant impact to customer retention as a result of these things that we've put into place for both our associates and our customers. So that has been very, very rewarding for me. The challenge, I would say, and what is really key and core to being successful, is the communication and change management that you put into play when you are rolling out and launching something across the distributed business model that we have. We have over 200 locations. And so it's really critical that we have very strong communication, frequent communication, and that change management element of what we're doing in order to consistently perform and drive change in the organization. So, rewarding and challenging at the same time, but definitely can see the impact and the results in the business.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? Because TruGreen being such a large national organization, but having the dynamism that comes with working at a smaller company, like you don't often see that. So it's great to hear that that's been your experience, and hear you on any sort of change management things that take effect. There's always all the communications that have to be associated with it. So can understand how that would be a bit challenging. Julie, what are your thoughts on your most rewarding and challenging aspects of your job?
I love this question because, to me, what is rewarding and what is challenging is equally important, because the hard is what makes it good, right? So for me, the most rewarding, I would say, is tied directly to the ability to overcome the challenges that are inherent to the role. Again, I mentioned we're in the people business. People matter. If you treat people like numbers, they're going to see right through that. So you have to build that genuineness, that care, that relationship with individuals, and you do that by helping them and seeing them succeed, which is so rewarding. Building those relationships, making sure that they're strong. Kate mentioned communication. Communication is so key to that. And I think if you spend enough time in an organization and build those relationships and connections with people, the biggest satisfaction comes from seeing other people shine, their growth, their results, their achievement. And I believe this wholeheartedly. Having fun. Sales is and can be a noble profession. Again, the heart is what makes it good. So, the most challenging, if I'm being honest, we do work in a business that has a little bit of seasonality to it. So, adapting to the market changes and the uncertainty of the market at times, leading and motivating a diverse team. And not everyone is the same. They're not motivated the same. They don't respond the same. And they don't have the same strengths or challenges. And I would say managing relationships in your organization, that can be challenging at times if you have a difference of opinion. But I think as long as you're respectful and mindful that your opinion is not the only opinion, you can take that challenge and turn it into something that becomes a competitive advantage.
Yeah, love that. That's so great. Awesome. Well, we have a question that I think is relevant and pertinent to some of the reflections that you all have shared thus far. Someone asked, how do you handle moments of self-doubt, especially in high stakes situations? Amy, you spoke about making a mental note in your early days of, coming up with something of value to share and using your voice. Do you have any additional tips and tricks for how to handle those moments of imposter syndrome or self-doubt?
I think that one big thing is making sure that you also have the confidence to say that you're not sure, but you'll go figure something out. That's something that somebody in my past taught me. You'd rather just hear, I don't know, but I'll find out, rather than try to make up something and then create the self-doubt for everybody. So that's something that I've always held strong to.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. Julie or Kate, do you all have any advice on combating imposter syndrome?
What I would just add to that is, if you are experiencing self doubt, just whatever the circumstances are, don't hesitate to ask for feedback. Many times we maybe shy away from talking about ourselves or, getting that feedback for fear of what that is. But I think it's so, so important to ask for feedback, not only from your boss, but from the peers that you work with. Because I think more times than not, you'll find that that feedback will lift you up. But ask for that productive, constructive criticism, because that's just going to help to make you better at what you do.
Yeah, great advice.
I want to chime back in again. Kate inspired me for a little bit more here, but I think that when you do experience self-doubt, try to isolate where it's coming from. Is it because you're not super confident in the actual data or whatever it is that you're involved in, or is it because maybe you're a little shy to speak up? I think that in the case, in either scenario, you know where to go next. Then, if it's because you don't know your story as well as you need to, and that's where I'm at right now in my new finance journey. I know like 75% of the story, but I haven't figured it all out yet. And so I spend my free time digging into the metrics. Like I said before, I like to get into the meat of it so I can understand it. So that's how I spend my free time, trying to figure it out. So when the time comes in a meeting, I'm asked something, I am more confident. And if it's the other, being shy and there's things that you can do. You can do Toastmasters. For me, I'm nervous talking to you guys all right now, but I know that when I purposely force myself to get in front of a group of people and talk and get my voice out there, I'm just growing. I maybe feel a little uncomfortable, but every time I do it, I'm going to gain more and more confidence. So
Yeah.
thank you. This is a great growing opportunity for me this morning.
That's amazing. And that's such a valid point, right? Is like finding out where that doubt originates from and really trying to meaningfully address it. Julie, you spoke a little bit about kind of like the reward and challenge being, the uncertainty of the market. Can you talk maybe from a sales perspective? Yeah, like when you have these moments of self-doubt in these high stake situations where it's, revenue of the organization, how do you handle those moments of uncertainty?
Absolutely. So I would say pay attention to what your thought is, right? So when you are feeling self doubt, what is the thought that is running through your brain at that point? It is a thought. Is it a thought that brings you down, makes you feel uncomfortable? Pretty much sets the stage that you are going to be uncomfortable in the situation or have that self doubt. It's not going to be a positive experience for you because you're not thinking positively. If your thought is negative, you feel bad. If you feel bad, your actions usually follow suit, and then you prove that thought true by yielding a negative result. So, what I would say is remember who you are. What has gotten you this far comes authentically from you. You never know how to do a thing until you do a thing. So, don't be afraid to try a thing or to speak up. And if you fail forward and learn from it, then that is positive. So just remember that. As far as the market, what I would say is that there's always something that you could do next, that you could do differently, that you could reevaluate, reassess to organizationally and strategically pivot in real time. So just because you haven't figured it out yet doesn't mean that you can't, or better yet, that you are surrounded by great thought leaders and other people who may be a part of your solution. So I think that Amy and Kate talked about that. Don't be afraid to say that you don't know something, but also don't be afraid to phone a friend. You got to utilize your resources. And remember, the best thing about being a part of a team is that you're not by yourself. And when you start thinking that way, you're going to change your action, right? And you're going to change your outcome.
Yeah, well, it's like right, a mindset, right, and being looking both internally, as Amy talked about, and Kate mentioned externally, right? You have so many great people that you work with and for, so that's amazing advice. In this similar vein, we have some folks who are joining who might be a little bit earlier in their careers and still trying to figure out what their direction or purpose is. Do you all have any advice, given your experience and tenure in your professional careers, for someone who is earlier in theirs when it comes to figuring out their sense of purpose? Amy, you can go ahead first.
All right, I love this question. There's so many things that I would tell early Amy here. One of the biggest things for me is that I urge you guys to keep an open mind and be willing to try new things. I've done multiple roles in my career, multiple levels, from finance to customer experience to training. And some of the biggest steps in my career came from saying yes to a new challenge, even if I was, shaking in my boots, thinking, can I really do this? But what got me through that was trusting that my leadership at that time saw my potential, even if I was unsure at first. And the last thing I'll say is that lateral moves aren't a bad thing. They can lead to your future and something that you may not have planned out from the beginning, but there's some really exciting things out there if you can keep an open mind.
Yeah, I think there was someone in my life that told me once that your career is not like a ladder, like everyone thinks. It's like a jungle gym, right? And on a jungle gym, there's no, you got to the top, you move sideways, you move down, and that's the fun, right? So love that, Amy. And
yeah, and the one thing about that is when you move laterally and you learn more about the company, and then you become a more well-rounded employee. So it just makes you so much more versatile than just staying in your one space forever.
100%. Kate, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I would echo what Amy says in that, I think it's not necessarily about the titles that you have, but it's the experiences that you get along the way. And I've had the opportunity to be involved in so many different things, from, building our first e-commerce website to integrating new businesses that we've acquired over the years. I mean, just a number of great opportunities that I've had a chance to be involved with. So it's not all about just a change in role. Um, the one big thing that I would say is that as you move along in your career, you really need to develop your personal brand and the way in which you continuously promote yourself and your brand, so to speak. And one thing that I would say that I was a little bit shy about doing along the way is really talking about the things that I've accomplished over the years, and really tooting my own horn. And I think it's really very important that you do that, because as you work with different people, as new leaders come into the organization, they may not know all of the things that you did before. And so it's really, really important that you focus on what that personal brand is, and you promote yourself, not in a boastful way, but, a very factual way. And, I think one of the things that you can do is, just as Amy said, raise your hand for new things. Hey, I've been involved in this project in the past. My experience and the things I've been able to achieve working with a team put me in, a great place to lead this particular project that's going on, or sign up for this new opportunity. So that is what I would say is so important as you're developing your career.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Amy was saying, right? Like have that almost like a sheet of sorts, like bragging, but to be able to back it up with like what
That's
you've
right.
actually done and impact on the business. Julie, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm so excited too. This is a great question. And I will tell you, one of the things that's really helped me, and I challenge all of you and encourage you to maintain a growth mindset. Know that you can develop, you absolutely can, any ability through effort, dedication, shadowing, networking, internships, those types of things. No one can ever do anything until they try, right? So, the one thing that we all have in common between Kate, Amy, and myself is that we've all had a first day in this organization,
Mhm.
right? So when you think about that, you are with kindred spirits. We've all had a first day, and no one can do something until they've done it, right? So just remember that. Examine yourself. That's really important. What were you doing when you felt the most excited, the most passionate, the most engaged, right? What impact do you want to make? And whatever you decide to do, embrace the process, right? So I always tell people there are two types of people that are on the roller coaster, right? The ones that hold on for dear life and the ones that throw up their hands and enjoy the ride. I personally am doing a little bit of this, right? So I will try it scared. I will try it excited, right? So no matter what I'm feeling, I'm going to try to replace that thought with something positive. So I encourage you to do the same thing, but still try. I tend to believe that things are always better experiences than what our fear tells us they're going to be. When you look back at something, you're like, wow, that wasn't so bad, right? So think of it that way. So, and if you do fail, don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay. If you reflect on it and you learn from it, then it wasn't wasted. And last but not least, I mentioned this before and I'm going to say it again, pay attention to your thoughts. They determine how you feel. And most actions are based on how we feel, right? Not all of them, but if you will replace the thoughts that make you feel bad with something that empowers you, it will absolutely change your life.
Yeah, it's that interesting dynamic of like your perception becomes your reality, right? And so the more that you tell yourself, like Amy, like had mentioned earlier, right? Like I don't know everything, but I can learn and I can find out, right? That mindset. Kate, you mentioning like, raising your hand, agreeing to be a part of things, saying, hey, I have experience that's maybe not the same, but transferable. I can do this, is really the name of the game. And it's great to hear that you all have benefited from the very advice that you're sharing right now in your careers. Speaking of career growth and development, would love to know a little bit more about how TruGreen has supported your growth and leadership development. Amy, it sounds like you are most recently, in your newish sort of role, benefiting from that growth. So would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, that was one of the reasons that I made my transition to TruGreen was I saw a really great career path here that I didn't necessarily have at my last place. And what I have found is just that TruGreen has allowed me to take on work that's beyond my initial job description. And that extra work helped me build new relationships across the organization, like working with Kate and working with Julie. And all those new relationships and work helped expand my knowledge and my skill set. And that has enabled me to make some meaningful impacts that were beyond my core role. And then it ultimately supported this increased set of responsibilities. It allowed my bosses and my peers to see that I had more depth than just the role that I was actually doing. I am extremely grateful for TruGreen and the opportunities that I've had, and I can't wait to see what else is out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great that you feel like the switch to TruGreen really kind of catapulted your ability to grow. Julie, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I tell everyone the same thing. Don't be afraid to change verticals or industries. I worked in education for 17 years before I joined TruGreen. I interviewed with TruGreen 13 times. 13, not one, not three, not one and three together, 13 times for this job. And I wanted the job. And with every interview, I wanted it more. So I'm so thankful for that. The best thing about being a part of TruGreen is the one team mindset. We all work together for the good of the whole. Job titles and descriptions do not limit our scope of influence. And I'm very proud to say that's not my job in this organization. And that's really important. And I would say, my favorite thing about working at TruGreen, outside of just the opportunity to join the team, is pushing me out of my comfort zone. So I started with the organization in Dallas, Texas, where I reside, with one location, and I now support 7 of the 10 contact centers across the U.S. directly. And I never thought that I would be able to do that in such a small amount of time, but it's been one of the most rewarding challenges that I've had so far in my career. And I'm so thankful that the organization has given me the opportunity to connect and work with so many good people. So if you are in an industry that does not excite you, or in a vertical that doesn't challenge you, or that you feel that you're growing in, don't be afraid to pivot. The pivot can be scary, but it's also the best part.
And how amazing and refreshing to hear that a company like TruGreen is willing to take a chance, if you will, on non-traditional talent. You don't have to have the requisite experience in a certain industry to be able to make it. I think that is such a cool story, especially in today's age with, a lot of organizations kind of being a little bit more, I would say, stricter. I think it's cool to hear that TruGreen has a culture of understanding the potential and really acknowledging that. I think that's refreshing. Kate, let's hear about your perspective.
Sure. So one of my early bosses at TruGreen and mentors really encouraged me to go get my MBA. And, once you go through college the first time, you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to get out there and, college is behind me. But he really, really encouraged me to get my MBA and supported that by tuition reimbursement. And so I signed up with the program. And we even had an internal leadership development program at the time, but he encouraged me to go to a university, go externally and get an MBA, which I did, and was able to get reimbursement. And that experience, I got an executive MBA degree, and I worked alongside professionals from many other companies in my area, and that really accelerated my career within TruGreen, and gave me the opportunity to get promoted, and have a lot of the great experiences that I've had so far. So that's really something that I'm very proud of, that TruGreen helped me to develop my personal and professional skills in that way, and supported me.
Yeah, we know now more than ever, folks are really looking at organizations and how are they showing up for their employees beyond position title and compensation. So to hear that your manager strongly advocated for you getting higher education, and TruGreen having a process in place to be able to get reimbursement for it, and then bringing back that knowledge to the company, I think is such a wonderful testament to company culture, right? This idea of professional development, and really walking the walk and talking the talk. In this kind of, sort of thread, we've talked a lot about personal and professional fulfillment. It's very clear that from everyone's, thoughts and reflections thus far, you all love what you do, and you love who you do it for. Would love to know a little bit about what are certain elements of your role that give you the most personal and professional fulfillment. Julie, do you have thoughts?
Absolutely. I would say difficulty, right? Because what we see as a difficult situation or a person is really just a rock star moment or person at possibility, right? So the majority of people or situations that are difficult is because we have not figured out what inspires them or motivates them, or most importantly, what is difficult about that situation is usually something that we haven't figured out how to make a competitive advantage yet. So if you stay with it and you try, you're going to learn from it, and you're going to build your skill set and your ability to influence your team and your results by just not being afraid to try just because it's difficult. And that's what I love about our job. In addition, we mentioned this, our employees are the heart of our business. Our customers are the heart of our business. And to be honest with you, the team, the ladies that I'm on the line with today, are part of the heart of our business. And I'm really proud of TruGreen for ensuring that, that we are empowered women, that we do have the ability to promote and influence and help others along their journey. With that being said, we are relentless, and helping us get better is what drives us. Continuous, relentless improvement is our way of life. And again, I mentioned this team before. If you're standing still, you're falling behind, right? And so I love being a part of an organization that does not stand still.
Love that. Love it. At this point in time, we are going to take a few audience questions, of which we have many. So we'll see how many we can answer. One of the questions that came up that I thought was really interesting, given everybody's, experiences and perspectives, was what's one thing that you do differently than most people in your role that's been a game changer for your success?
Well, I definitely could answer. I don't know if it comes across, but I'd love to have fun, bring good energy to the floor, make every day something that the team looks forward to. Why not do our best to celebrate one another, celebrate success, and most importantly, back up the behaviors that lead to results? In a sales business, you're not always going to hit the mark every single time, but if you could build up your skill and your behaviors around a skill or process and execute that to the best of your ability with every customer interaction, that's really important. So for me, just making sure that I am mindful of my energy, mindful of what I'm bringing to the team, and doing my best to ensure that I'm an encouragement to others. And a good way to understand that is if you've ever been on a call or around in a meeting and you dread going to that meeting, you dread going to that call, you dread being around that person. I never want to be that person. So I'm always looking for the good, want to celebrate the good, and most importantly, encourage and celebrate the people who are doing the good. And as a leader, your performance is directly tied to other people's work. So if you don't spend time celebrating them and making sure that they feel recognized and important, you're going to miss the mark.
1000%. completely. I feel like there's nothing even to add to that because it's such a great encapsulation. Amy, Kate, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that this wasn't always present in my leadership style, but it's grown over the years. One thing that I think I do pretty well is I really try to connect on a more personal level with everybody on my team. I have, and I have for the last 10 years, multiple levels underneath me. And I'm always have an open door, of course, but I have quarterly skip levels that are set through the end of time. So I'm never missing them. Um, I make sure that my folks know that they can chat me and I call it being a human. Like if they tell me that they're not feeling well and they apologize, don't apologize. Take the time. It's yours. This is just being a human. It's okay. So I take, and I'll give you one example that I'm actually really proud of, that I took that extra step on connecting. I had a group of 10, and they weren't even analysts yet. They had all come from the call centers, and they were kind of in this transition role where they were not associates, but they were doing special projects for us, and they were all on a track to be an analyst. And we had some analyst positions open. This is at my last company. And I reviewed everybody's resume and critiqued it and gave them feedback. And 9 out of 10 of them, by the time I left, had been promoted to an analyst. And it was the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done. It was so simple. I just showed up. They sent me the resume and I just showed up and looked at it. And there's nothing I love more now than looking on LinkedIn and seeing these people's careers path. It's just so fulfilling. So just be human. Care.
You moved me to tears, Amy. That's such a beautiful, beautiful example of really, again, I think Kate, maybe you had mentioned something about, lifting people up, right? It's not just about you growing your career, but looking back and saying, hey, come with me, right? Like, let me help you. Kate, what about you?
I have just tried to be over the years, one, very transparent. Sometimes I might say or speak what's on everybody's mind, but maybe they're too afraid to say it. But it sort of breaks down barriers and gets people talking. And we're only as good as what we're able to accomplish together as a team. And so I just want to make sure that everyone is enjoying what they're doing and contributing, so that we're really having the diversity of thought that we need to in our business. And I have just found over the years that just makes everything a better solution for our company and the people we serve.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking your truth and owning it, because that diversity of thought really is how organizations flourish. Amazing. So at Fairy God Boss, we do have a tradition of asking our panelists the following. You all kind of touched upon it in some shape or form, but what we know is that the data shows that women don't often feel comfortable enough bragging or taking ownership of all the amazing things that they achieve. Can you share with us an accomplishment, personal or professional, that you're most proud of? Amy, it sounds like maybe for you, that moment was, being able to uplift all of those folks into analyst roles. I don't know if you have a more recent example that you can share that's top of mind.
That one was pretty high up, but the one that tops it all for me was at my last company. I won the most prestigious annual award that they had. So about, 4 months prior, I've been asked to join this project for 3 months, working through some asset acquisitions, and I had zero knowledge about it. And I was so hesitant to do it. And honestly, when I was asked, I was talking to the person that was vacating the position, and she scared me so much. I started crying and went home. I'm like, I don't know that I can do this. I was so scared. But I live up to my own advice, which is just try something new. And I ended up having the time of my life. It was the best thing that I've ever done in my entire career. And at the end of the year, when the project was over, the CEO, chairman, owner of the company awarded my project team what he called the Chairman's Award. And this was a one-time thing that out of thousands, tens of thousands of employees that I won it that one year. And I have a little glass plaque that I keep, remember my time there.
I love it. I hope it's someplace proudly displayed in your office.
Yes.
Awesome. Julie, what are your thoughts on this?
Sure. So I would say having grit, if you think about it, right? Having grit has allowed me to persevere through difficult times without losing confidence. It's helped me learn from mistakes. And most importantly, it helps me focus on what I can control. And if I'm being honest with everyone, I've never been the smartest or most polished person in the room, but I never let it stop me from trying or going after what I want or getting more, right? We have enough critics in life, y'all. We should not be one of them, right? So that's so important that you remember that. I remind others of that all the time. There is now and will only ever be one you. No one will ever have your fingerprints, not ever. That has been, is now, or will ever be born. So you have to remember that. You are the common denominator in every personal and professional interaction and experience. And that's important that you understand that. So, grit, because talent does give you a head start, but your grit determines your level of success.
Yeah, it's so true, right? I think grit is the name of the game, and the differentiator. We've talked about, advice for folks who are earlier on in their career, but obviously hindsight is always 2020. So we also like to ask, what advice, if you could give advice to your younger self, would you give? Kate, would you like to give us some insight into what younger Kate might have benefited from hearing?
Always be working on building your personal brand. And, it is all about you and, to Julie's point, and, it's all about investing in your own worth and value, because when you do that, then you're going to build up your business when you're developing and promoting your personal brand.
Love it. And Julie?
Oh, I would tell young Julie so many things that would be many, many, many years ago. But what I would say, it's okay to be different. It's okay. Take risks, step outside of your comfort zone, do what makes you happy. So important to remember that and be thankful. Be present in the moment. Kate mentioned that grandbaby that's on the way. I know that Amy is such a wonderful and dedicated mother. And so you have to relish the moments and be present in the moment that you are in. That's very important. Don't be afraid to ask other people for help. And one of my favorites is do not let others be your source of validation. Right. So I mentioned again, we have enough credits. Don't be one of them. Remember who you are, what you're capable of, and don't be afraid to try. But most importantly, remember fear is a wolf. And what do wolves do? They chase you, right? So turn it around on that wolf, chase that fear. And you're never going to be afraid to do things that scare you. And if you can do that and lean in, then you will always come out better than you were before you started.
Julie, we're going to need you to start a podcast so that people can just listen to you every morning to amp themselves up before they start their day. So,
I'm ready. Or everybody could just come join and work with us at TruGreen.
Yeah,
We'd love to have you guys.
100%. Amy, what would you tell younger Amy if you had a chance?
Yeah, I would tell me that I shouldn't get hung up on other people's career progressions. So it's really easy to get distracted by trying to figure out what other people are doing versus the reward that you're seeing them get. And you're not getting the whole story anyways, especially if you disagree. It's just a bad track to be on. Focus on what you can control and take that and knock it out of the park. I definitely would compare myself to other people for quite a while, and it's just wasteful time. Yeah. They're not you.
100%. Everybody's fingerprint is unique, right?
Yep.
So, wonderful. I mean, so many key takeaways from this conversation. I've been taking notes because I feel like they're important to to keep in mind. You all have spoken so wonderfully about your personal and professional experience and how, being at TruGreen has allowed you to flourish, and a lot of the key advice about, speaking up, raising your hand, not being afraid to take an opportunity, failing forward. Life is too short to hate your career, right? So finding that passion and that purpose that drives you, being okay saying, I don't know, and kind of, I'll figure it out. And always taking the time to look back and say, hey, who can I help along the way and uplift, I think are some of the very many takeaways that I will bring forward. And I hope that other attendees will also be able to benefit from. Thank you so much, Kate, Amy, and Julie, for taking the time to join us today and for sharing such fantastic advice. And thank you all who have tuned in for the discussion. As a reminder, we'll be sending a recording of today's event along with resources to learn more about opportunities at TruGreen. In the meantime, be sure to check out TruGreen's profile and Jobs and Fairy God Boss. I saw there was a question asking about some engineering positions and stuff open, so feel free to go check out their open roles. We'd also love to hear feedback from you all to help us improve future events. So please head to the Typeform tab on the right side of your screen and share your thoughts in a brief 1-minute survey. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks,